Hello, this is Alex Calvo Garcia. You're listening to the Iron Hour podcast.
Hello, Iron fans. This is another episode of the Iron Hour podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in, watching in, whether or not you're on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, however you get your podcast. My name is Max Bell. Andy Butler is away working, so I'm delighted to say that I should be the temporary host of another podcast here, brought to you in partnership with TalkSport. I will get onto our sponsors in a moment, but I want to introduce two of our usual panelists, one of whom looks like he's been sort of held hostage for some crime on the high seas. Marco, how are you doing?
You wouldn't rag off, would you? But yeah, no, I'm good. Obviously, a little bit disappointed with yesterday's result, but I think we can hold ourselves heads held high. And no, looking forward to first versus second in league on Tuesday. So yeah, positive.
Absolutely. Couldn't have put it better myself, no matter what you've been doing on some dinghy off the coast of Sardinia.
I always think to four lions, you know.
You said it, not me, mate. You said it, not me. And Gareth, for those who are watching the podcast on YouTube, I dare say they would have already noticed something over your left shoulder. But for those of people who are listening to us, talk about what's over your left shoulder.
The third shirt. Scunthorpe United's third shirt.
It's looking very good. I mean, obviously, it looked pretty good when the players were wearing it at Blackpool on Saturday.
Yes.
Does it look as good in your kitchen?
It does look as good in the kitchen. It looks better on, but it's a medium, so it wouldn't look better on me. It looks better on Dill. Yeah, it's Dylan's shirt. So he wore it proudly yesterday at the game. So yeah, it's a good one. And I think it's nearly sold out as well, hasn't it? In the club shop, online.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Really good.
So looking forward to seeing a few Iron fans rocking that in the coming days and weeks, especially as they said the Iron might be wearing it in a few games in the near future as well. So before we crack on with the main podcast, I just want to thank our sponsors, No Film, AC Videography and Photography, Best Blanks Wholesale, and also Hole in the Wand. As I say, this is another episode of the Iron Hour podcast. We've been working really hard to keep delivering them, particularly after games. We've had a lot of Saturday, Tuesday. So we wanted to get another episode out before the big table-topping clash, as Marco said, first versus second in the National League. We will preview the Rochdale in due course. Very happy to say we've got an excellent Spina Camp section, so very much looking forward to that. But before we do, Gaz, you were on the coast. Saw you in the packed away end on a couple of occasions. Talk to me about the Blackpool game. How do you think it went on the balance of play?
I think on the balance of play, I think we were a better team overall. But I feel that first 20 minutes, we stood off them a little bit, gave them a bit of respect, and didn't really get into the game until they'd scored. And the goal that they scored as well was just, I'd love to say it was, a gem into the top corner and what have you, but
that would be a lie, wouldn't it, Gareth?
It would be a lie. It's like ricocheted off. I don't know whose player's legs it was, one of our players' legs, and everybody seems to have followed the ball where the ball's going. It's gone back to Fletcher, and basically he just got the pick of the goal. Really could have put it anywhere, which he has done, into the back of the net. And I don't think we started playing until that goal went in. Really, it just seemed to liven us up a bit, and it was disappointing because we had so much of the ball, created so many chances, but as has happened in the past, we've just not been able to put it in the net, which was our downfall really yesterday. And we had some really good chances as well, and goal disallowed on the stroke of half time for offside, and I'm sure people have seen it, a picture floating around that's showing Whitehall onside as the ball's getting played. So you win some, you lose some, and unfortunately we lost that one, but we can hold our heads high, really can.
Yeah, definitely. And I had a very Scunthorpe moment walking down Messingen Road Sunday afternoon. We're recording this on Sunday evening when a Scunthorpe fan who shall remain nameless accosted me on the street so that he could show me the screenshot to prove that Whitehall was onside. Which I thought that was it was a nice way to find out, sort of a mix of the old and new, really. So little bit of frustration there, Marco, in terms of what Gareth has said. Obviously, really positive performance, opportunities which we did create. I think of the disallowed goal. I think of mistake by Peacock Farrell in goal for Blackpool when Roberts couldn't quite bundle it over the line. I think of Deckhouse header, which certainly from my angle I thought was in. It's the hope that kills you. What positives would you be taking from this game if you were Andy Butler? And are there any bits of learning and things that you'll want to do better against Rochdale on Tuesday?
Yeah, I think. Look, the fact that how Gareth just spoke, I think he's analysed the game quite well there. The Whitehall chance, it seems to be a pattern in FA Cup. I remember Chelsea away. I remember a stonewall penalty on Van Veen not being given, and look, it's them little bit of moments where should, woulda, coulda. It's just one of those things. But yeah, look, I think listening to their manager Ian Evatt after the game. He was very similar to how sort of Butler was after he beat Aldershot. It wasn't pretty, but we got the job done. It's a win, or as we're in the cup, you into the next hat. That's all that matters, especially with they're in a sticky patch of form at the minute. But yeah, no, look, positives to take, and obviously what Butler will take from it. I think their keeper. Again, I'm just going off highlights because I couldn't actually make it. I thought Peacock Farrell made some really good saves for them in goal. I know a few fans of theirs saying he had a good game. As did,
And I would say as well, that Peacock Farrell's a quality goalkeeper to be having if you're second bottom in League One.
yeah,
I
look,
played a lot of games in the second tier, played for Northern Ireland, like that's not to be sniffed at. Ex-Leeds, ex-Chef Wednesday.
yeah, and the same for Fletcher up front. Obviously, we've got the chance in the goal. Like players that were tipped to play at much higher levels than we are doing, so we've obviously got the ability there. But for some reason or other, I found myself at Blackpool. That's no disrespect to Blackpool. Obviously, we can't talk. But yeah, no, I think Butler will take a lot of positives from it. It looked like we were injury free for the game on Tuesday. Obviously, I'm mentioning Peacock Farrell there. We knew, obviously, with the Watson distraction earlier on in the week, Mahadi coming in. Thought he had a solid, well, again, from radio and the highlights I've seen, some really good saves. So yeah, look, that's one to build on. He's played again today, which is a bit weird. I know we're going off topic, but Mahadi's played again for Leeds today. Um, but yeah, no, I think Butler overall will be very confident with the performance. And I think, to be fair, I know Barry's in America, well, Amsterdam in a minute, but he said we look like a league team. And I think
they both begin with A.
we don't look far off a league team. And I think that's a big takeaway from Saturday's game. I know a lot of people on Twitter said the game's momentum sort of changed when Ewing came off, which isn't a concern. We know he's a quality player. So yeah, no, it's positive. Not a positive result, but like I said, not many people left that stadium, Scunthorpe fans especially, too disappointed.
So I think there's a couple of bits there. Obviously, in terms of Ewing, Ewing, Whitehall, and Roberts were substituted in the second half. But I think of that starting lineup, arguably with a possible exception of Will Evans. It was realistically our strongest starting 11. So when you're making substitutions, you're going to be bringing off your best players, aren't you? Because you've started with your best players.
I know you said with no Evans there. Do you think our strongest 11 now is with Horton at centre half?
I think it's a difficult question. I mean, it does bring me on to the question of who you were particularly impressed with. I'll go to you for this one, Gareth, just because there was quite a bit of chat on the bus home. When they were going around and doing the man of the match polls.
Right.
Horton got a lot of votes. Starbuck got a lot of votes as well. I thought he was particularly good going forward. Actually,
he was. Starbuck was good.
Mahadi made a couple of big saves in the second half, in particular. I think when there was the last 15 minutes when the game got really stretched, a couple of one-on-ones, he saved there. Is there anyone in particular you'd give a shout out to?
I think you've mentioned them there. Really, I think Mahadi for me was. I went with Pete, producer Pete. Helps with the kit videos, and he was telling me he'd not seen him play at York, and he was asking me about Mahadi and stuff, and I was bigging him up, and I said, "Is this, is that?" And whatever. And I said, "He's gonna be rubbish now, isn't he?" But after the game on the way home, he was just like, "You were right about him. He's amazing." He said, "We need to keep him for the rest of the season." And I think a few people have said that on Twitter as well. That can we get him till the end of the season? It would be a big help because it's just so composed and assured of himself, and his kicking, his ability to pick out a pass as well. I think there's one to Roberts that he pinged, and it was just pinpoint. And he's 19. Oh, he's at Leeds and in their academy, and he's played for Scotland under 21s, but he's a talent. Out of the two goalkeepers, for me, I think he was the better. But I'm not saying that because he's at Scunthorpe.
And look, it'll certainly be a big test, not just for him, but for the whole side away at Rochdale on Tuesday. We will preview that game shortly in terms of the podcast. Marco, I think that brings us nicely in terms of reviewing the Blackpool game. Can you give us a little bit of an FPL update?
I can. Obviously, it's still not over yet. Hopefully, we get this out tomorrow. There'll still be one game left, which only people like me who are sad enough to have Sunderland and Everton players care about.
Well, you see, Sunderland players have become quite popular, haven't they? Obviously, unexpectedly strong start to the season for them.
Exactly, yeah, they're getting the points on the board. Obviously, they have a numerous amount of players that will be missing for the AFCON. So the fact that we've got the points on the board before that, I'm sure they'll be happy with. But some cracking player. I mean, Mukele stands out, one of the best centre-back point-wise on FPL this year. But yeah, obviously they're sitting in 7th. Big game with Everton. Their form seems to have dropped off as well. So yeah, should be a good game. Your big hitters, a lot of them have all delivered this week. Obviously, the robot were back at it today, grabbed another 2. So if you've captained him, it's a 20 points. It's a good week. I mean, obviously, Salah, another one in really bad form, managed to get his customary goal, albeit a gift. But no.
Yes, I have to say, if you're Emi Martinez, you're not very happy with that goal, are you?
No, especially he must have Salah in his fantasy team. That's all. But yeah, look, a mixed week. I mean, a lot of people have had Newcastle players, especially going to West Ham. And obviously them getting defeated, so that was a bit of a shock. But yeah, look, no surprises. All the big hitters delivering. It's still all to play for. I mean, not too much change at the top of the actual podcast league itself. Mike's still sitting top with Sam Allen in second. A little bit of movement elsewhere, but nothing too major. Regarding the players, Denton still tops the group in 11th. But yeah, look, still a long way to go. And again, you mentioned our sponsors, Georgian in Barton. We're really grateful for the sponsorship and the great prize of £100 bar tab, which is why I'm sure with some serious points scoring our league at the minute. So yeah, there'll be an update next week. I think we've got 2 weeks left before the international break. So yeah, I'll be looking to use my triple captain next week, I think. So yeah, all to play for. And again, thanks well over 300 people. So really appreciate you playing.
Yeah, massive. And actually, I think obviously you mentioned there that Mike Hickson is top. I believe Mike actually does live in Barton as well. So
right,
he might be particularly keen for the prize of the £100 bar tab. And that,
I mean, with us guys, I am 4th at the minute, but I mean, our league is very, very close. From top to bottom, there is less than 100 points. So Becky is leading the charge with 570. Barra had his moment and then suddenly dropped off. He's in second. Max Bell in third. Me in 4th, and Iron Army bringing up Maria.
I've had a good week this week so far, and I've still got Grealish to go.
You are having a very good week, actually.
It makes a change.
A great Declan Rice captain. Brilliant shot.
Oh, look at that! Yeah, there's no flies on our resident train.
This is a man who doesn't watch the Premier League, by the way.
Well, that is true. Do you know what? You mentioned Salah's goal. I've not seen it, so I'm going to go watch it now.
Excellent, fantastic. Thank you very much, Marco, for the very, very helpful FPL update there, and thank you to everybody who's been taking part. As he says, more than 300 people, the vast majority of Himalayan fans, taking part in our league this season. So that's been excellent. Right then, obviously we've been talking about the big game on Tuesday. Scunthorpe United away at Rochdale. It's first versus second in the National League, and I'm delighted to say that Barra has been able to record an excellent spine account for us.
Iron fans, my guest this week is, well, it's a face you're probably familiar with, or a voice you're familiar with if you are a connoisseur of non-league podcasts. We've got Shah this week, and Shah is from the Absolute Football Podcast, and of course, The Dale Way, which, as you can probably assume, is a Rochdale fan podcast. And of course, Charlotte, you are as well an ambassador of Her Game too. Thank you for joining us today.
No, thank you so much for having me on. How are you?
Wow, nobody asks me that. No, I'm doing great. I mean, why wouldn't I be great? Scunthorpe United are second in the league, second only to Rochdale. So things must be absolutely fantastic for yourself.
Yeah, it's really good at the moment. But as everybody knows, we do like to bottle it and put a lot of stress on the fans at Rochdale. So I'm not taking anything for granted. I'm a humble Rochdale fan. Don't worry.
Just a humble Rochdale fan.
Yes.
When the season started, and so we do our pre-season predictions, I had Rochdale as winning it, believe it or not, and I had Scunthorpe as low down as 17th or 18th. What were your expectations going into the season? And also, second question, what was your opinion of Scunthorpe?
Yeah, well, I'll start with the Scunthorpe one. I actually had you guys finish quite high because I was one. We follow on our non-league podcast. We do follow Scunthorpe because we cover the National League North and South as well. So there were one team that really did excite me last season in the National League North, and you've got some players who I think are very great. One I'm very biased of, obviously, Danny Whitehall. It has been at Rochdale. It was obviously in our academy, and I just know that just following his career, because I do like to keep an eye on. He's gone from strength to strength, and he's one of them players I'm very wary of on Tuesday. But yeah, I had you to finish quite high, and I was quite surprised with some of the people in particular in the chat of our podcast because they didn't really with Scunthorpe, and I was like, why? They have the squad behind them. So with you guys, I did have you to finish quite high. I can't remember exactly. I can get back to you on that. But from a Rochdale perspective, I thought final of the FA Trophy. We obviously got to the playoffs as well. We kept a lot of our core team, what we had from last season, which was absolutely massive. So I just thought this season, I think we'll do relatively well. I thought it is getting stronger for National League. I will not take that for granted. Obviously, you got your Carlisles coming down. I know Morecambe and obviously their struggles. So I didn't really include Morecambe into that because you don't really know what was going on at the time with Morecambe. But then you've got the likes of yourselves, you've got your Boreham Woods, you've obviously got your Forest Greens as well. So you can't really take Southend, you can't really take anyone for granted. But I thought this season, playoffs minimum should have been for us, considering who we kept, but as well as who we have added to our squad. Manny Desirue, obviously being the main one.
Well, Manny is a player that I think Scunthorpe tried to call a couple of times. So just looking at the stats now, I think he's got 11 goals in 13 league appearances so far this season. Has he been a real difference?
Yeah, he is the type of player who we really wanted Cairo Mitchell to be. But in the end, with Cairo Mitchell, it just didn't fit our system. At the beginning of last season, obviously, he was scoring the goals. We've seen what he can do already for Forest Green. But Manny Desirue has got everything in the player that we always wanted Cairo to be. But not just his goal scoring, because a lot of people look at him as a goal scorer, which he's brilliant at. But it's his all-round play. It helps track back. It holds the ball up really well. And he's just got that experience in National League, something that I think we needed on the pitch, because we do have quite a young squad, to be fair. Ian Henderson and Liam Hogan aside.
Another player I wanted to talk about was Oliver Watmuth, of course, your goalkeeper,
Yes.
I believe on loan from Manchester City. Now, I have not been stalking your socials, just get that out there. But I did notice you put a video on the other day when you alluded to the fact that there is a suggestion he may be getting recalled.
Yes, unfortunately, City Extra, it is a rumour at the moment, But Manchester City Extra put something on that Brentford. I know Brentford are really known for their academy, and they've actually got one of our ex-players, Ethan Briley, as well, who they did buy from us, someone who was a really good prospect, and they are known for the academy and bringing the academy through, and they are interested in signing Oliver Watmore. So that if that does happen, it's kind of like, oh no, what will happen? But a lot of Manchester City fans have assured me that Oliver Watmore is in Manchester City's plans, and they do highly regard him, even though he is so young for his age. But the only problem is with me, we had Louis Molden, not last season, the season before, who got recalled back. He was on loan from Wolves. Then we obviously had Sam Waller, who we got really attached to. And now, obviously, this with Ollie Watmore, I'm just hoping and praying that he doesn't get recalled because Brentford want to buy him, or he doesn't get recalled because he want to challenge him at an EFL club, because apparently there is some interest when it comes to the EFL. So, yeah, I'm very, very anxious. I'm not going to lie.
There is one more player I'd like to talk about, because it's a player that's always impressed me, and that's Aidan Barlow. May not be the obvious candidate, may not be on everybody's radar, but I think I've always thought of as being an absolute workhorse, and really impressed me when he was at Doncaster Rovers.
Yes. Aidan Barlow, this season in particular, last season, the goals were really reflecting it with Aidan Barlow. And I think a lot of people kind of, if you're not a Rochdale fan and you're not seeing him week in, week out, you just see him as, oh, he was a goal scorer last season, he contributed. This season, it hasn't really contributed goal-wise yet, but he does, like you said, he does so much more. He's such a workhorse, but he is that one player in the squad, because we love passing out from the back, and we try, and Jim McNulty way is obviously the possession-based team. We like to hold a lot of the ball, but with someone like Aidan Barlow, he really does drive that ball forward, and he really is that dangerous player that does like to drive the ball forward and create opportunities. It isn't reflecting the same goal opportunities wise and goal scoring wise at the moment, but I think that is just solely because we do have Manny Desiree, because the same with Devante Rodney. He's not getting the plaudits and the goals that he deserves already this season, but it's because him and Barlow are working so much harder, and he just have that clinical striker up front that we haven't necessarily had last season.
Absolutely. Let's talk about somebody you just mentioned there, which is Jimmy McNulty.
Yes.
Obviously, Scunthorpe fans will be familiar with James McNulty because he played 9 or 10 games for the Iron on loan back in 2010. Really impressed us actually at the time. Thought he was a very decent player. Of course, went to Rochdale to end his career. Was there for the past 8 or 9 years of his career, and is now the manager. Probably surprise Iron fans, I think, to hear what you're about to tell us about his playing style, because certainly from a playing perspective, he wasn't particularly the most expansive, but I'm under the impression that he plays some really cute football.
Yeah, I'll take it a little bit back to last season just to give you a little bit of the story behind him. But it is surprising the kind of football he wants to play. But last season in games when we did throw it away, as I mentioned, obviously the Southend game, the FA Trophy against Spennymoor United, and then Spennymoor Town, sorry, and then one before that, Bromley in the FA Cup, where we were on to get the win in all 3 games, and then the defensive mentality of Jim McNulty kicked in, and that's when we did throw away the games, because for some reason, when he does sit back, that's when the pressure obviously does get on top of us, and we seem to crumble. But this season, I will give it to Jim, because there were a lot of our fans who were on at him, saying, I don't think he's the right man for the job. They love him as a Rochdale legend, but has he got what it takes to take us back to the EFL, and obviously, hopefully then just kind of expand on that. But this season, he has learned from his mistakes, to be fair to him. He's brought in Matty Doan, who has been a Rochdale player. He's more of an attacking style player in the past on his backroom staff. Jason Taylor, who was at Barrow as well. He's ex-Rochdale, a defensive midfielder. So where Jim has the more placid kind of approach, and he's quite chilled and relaxed. Jason Taylor's like the mouth and the bite, and I'm sure your fans will see it on the touchline on Tuesday, and obviously the players will see it on Tuesday. He's got that bit of aggression about him, what I think Jim needed. They brought in Josh Lillis as well, who was obviously a Rochdale legend goalkeeper. So they've got that, and then obviously
Scunthorpe as well. Scunthorpe as well, Josh Lillis.
Honestly, I love Josh Lillis. He's so lovely. And something as well that people aren't familiar with, if you're not a Rochdale fan, Ian Henderson hasn't really been starting in games, but also he's not been on the bench. And what I've seen recently in the warm-ups, he's been taking more of a coaching role, and it's just more to help with the attacking as well. And I think that's something that Jim really, really needed, because there was times, and I love Jim McNulty, I love the style of football he plays, as much as sometimes last season it got a little bit frustrating when he went all defensive then, and that's when we've chucked it away sometimes. It really has learnt from their mistakes, and yeah, some of the football I cannot fault this season. I don't want to get too carried away or anything, but yeah, it is a little bit of a shock, because you'd expect him to do the defensive long ball kind of thing, being a typical defender, but no, he's not. He's really intelligent, he is, especially when it comes to football and the game and reading the game.
Let's talk about your non-league journey, your non-league experience, because it is different for every club. Now, Rochdale, 102 years in the EFL, one of the stalwarts of the Football League.
Yes.
It was a sad day for a lot of people when they dropped out of the Football League. And I do remember reading a lot of Rochdale fans at the time on social media, almost assuming that promotion was a given the next season and would be a bounce back to the EFL at the first attempt. I remember reading that, having ourselves been relegated from the National League in our very season in that division. I remember reading that thinking, they might be in for a rude awakening here, because to get promoted from this division, you have to have a near perfect season.
Definitely. A lot of it was our younger fan base, because a lot of them have only really seen, apart from obviously the days that we've had and uncertainties recently, they've only really seen the Keith Hill's days. So they've automatically thought, oh yeah, we're a successful club. Keith Hill's got us to Wembley. He's obviously got us promoted. And they've not really seen the times before the Keith Hill days where it has been a struggle, even though we were a stable League Two team, to be honest, for years and years before Keith Hill came. We've always just been plodding along, doing our own thing. And then obviously after COVID, that was when it kind of changed. There were a lot going on. Like every football club struggled during COVID, like financially, and just not having the fans there and things like that to try and support them and push them on. And then there was a lot going on with the hostile takeover that was rumoured. And then because we're a fan-owned club as well, we needed to rechange the structure, and there were a lot of uncertainties about that. Our chairman thought we were going to end up going into liquidation until, obviously, fortunately, the Ogden family did come and take over. But I think a lot of it, any logical Rochdale fan, considering we were just regressing and regressing, thought, no, it's not going to happen. And to be fair, a lot of people actually thought we need to drop to relegation to kind of stabilise ourselves, because we have been a club who has been punching above our weight for numerous seasons. We've always been a club like buying and selling, or our academy players, but obviously since being relegated, we weren't able to rely on selling our academy players as well to try and bring the money in. So it has been tough. But yeah, I think all fan bases get them, especially Carlisle this season as well, which I've seen, where you think automatically, oh, we're the big boys, even though we've been relegated, we've got a lot of things going on, we're going to go straight back up. But I for 1 minute didn't think that. I was happy. I was one of them fans who was happy just surviving again that season, because there was just so much going on off the pitch. But non-league football's an eye-opener, but it does excite me. I never really saw much non-league football until, and I'll hold my hands up, until obviously Rochdale did get relegated. And since then, it's been an eye-opener, because you see some really, really good games, and it's surprising how many big names now are turning to non-league football to help them with their careers too.
Yeah. Final question. Well, I will ask you for a score prediction, but before we get on to that, you did mention there Keith Hill. I'm really interested to hear what Keith Hill's legacy is at Rochdale, because there is an argument to say, Charlotte, that his reputation went to die at Scunthorpe. He had an absolute shocker, was in charge for 39 league games with a win percent record of 7.69%. I don't think you could really attribute all the blame for our relegation to him, but he certainly was the manager at the back end of that season, and we did go down under him. And most famously, we lost 7-0 to Bristol Rovers on the final day of the season as we got relegated out of the EFL. And of course, that meant that Bristol Rovers got promoted themselves to League One. A really dark day for the club. I'd be interested to know, what kind of legacy does he still have at Rochdale? And a second question, if a day came when Jim McNulty did leave, what would that look like in terms of a potential for Keith Hill to return from a fan perspective? Would you be open to that?
Keith Hill, in my eyes, as a Rochdale fan, because obviously I follow all different kinds of football as well, but as a Rochdale fan, Keith Hill will always be, at the moment, the best manager we have ever had, because he managed to take us, obviously, history in League One, and he gave us some of our most amazing special moments as a Rochdale fan. It was just one of them things where it really did gel with Keith Hill. He knew the club from top to bottom. He was a player, obviously, at the club. Then he was the academy manager, him and Tony Ellis. And then, obviously, he went on to become Rochdale manager and absolutely did brilliant with Dave Flitcroft there. As a football fan, I can completely see other people's opinions on Keith Hill, and I can see, like, obviously, the jobs he's done at Barnsley, Scunthorpe, Tranmere, Bolton. The problem is with Keith Hill, he's a very, very intelligent man, but he's very, very outspoken. And sometimes he just needs to learn. As a manager, I think he needs to learn to just rein it in. But on radio, because he's very big on BBC Radio Manchester, I think he's absolutely brilliant. But I think his time as a manager is up. And as a Rochdale point of view, if it ever came where Jim McNulty, if he did leave Rochdale, I think if he ever did leave Rochdale, it'd just be to kind of better himself and go above and beyond Jim McNulty, because he's a very, very good coach. But I wouldn't want Keith Hill back. I think his time has come. I think we just need to concentrate on the fact that he did brilliant at his time there. And I feel like football has evolved as well. There's a lot more to football than Keith Hill, so I would never, ever want him to come back. And I feel like the last time he was there and towards the end of that, before he obviously did part ways with us, I think it did go a little bit salty as well. So I would never want that to affect, obviously, what he has done for us in the past.
Yeah, legacy is obviously important. I'll tell you what, just one thing there on that, though. It's interesting that you talk about football's evolved. It's so cyclic. I'm watching football now, and I'm like, it's like watching 2009, 2010
Crazy.
football. It's gone back into. I love it. I'm all for it. I've seen actual wingers get to the byline this season. Not seen that in about 10 years. How mad is that? Charlotte, let's have some predictions then ahead of this top of the table encounter. So, Rochdale have the home advantage. They have a 1 point advantage and the two games in hand. Everything's stacked in your favour going into this one. How do you see this game unfolding, and what's your score prediction?
I think it's going to be a very, very tough game, because I think you do have a very good following as well, Scunthorpe, don't you? And I think honestly, I think it'll be quite intimidating, because as you come out, your fans sit in the Wilberts Lane section, which is literally opposite to the dugout. So I think that's obviously, you've got to be careful of that. I think you'll be noisy and things like that. And sometimes, even though we're at home, we're not getting the crowds as well. And it can be quite intimidating. But I think it'll be quite a good scoring game. I'm going to go for a draw. I'm actually going to go for a draw, because I feel like we've got our first draw against Woking, and everyone was like, oh, will Rochdale be able to, I don't know if they'll go the season with getting a draw and things like that. And I just think it's typical of us now to go on a bit of a run where we only get draws because people keep opening their mouths. So I'm going to go for a 2-2. And I'm going to go for a Manny Desirue and Devante Rodney goal for us. And I think Danny Whitehall free kick.
There we go. Thank you very much to Barra. Obviously, he's away for this podcast, but he was able to very kindly record that little sort of bit of nugget insider information from Scotland. obviously, Marco, Rochdale have started the season very well. Expecting you to make the trip across. What are you feeling? What are your spidey senses telling you ahead of this one?
Worry. A large amount of worry. I think they look the real deal. I know we didn't manage to get anything against Carlisle, but I think obviously I never got a good result in the cup, but I think Rochdale look the real deal. I've been looking at a few of their videos earlier on in games, and the shape seems to be the one that stands out for me. The centre halves are almost overlapping, which obviously
It's very peak Chris Wilder, Sheffield United, isn't it?
yeah, that was I was just about to mention when they were doing okay in the Premier League. It's very, very fluid, and then they've obviously got the target man. Was it Grimsby? I think it was, but Desiree.
I'm not about to correct you on the pronunciation. Don't
Yeah.
you worry.
I'm gonna say we'll go with Big D, but yeah, Desiree is very tall chap, your typical target man, and I think he's flying with goals at the minute. So yeah, look, they look a real dangerous outfit. So look, if we approach the game the same way as we did yesterday. I think we've got every chance. I think if we're be taken seriously as contenders, which I know a few have mentioned on Twitter, Facebook, etc., then these are the games that we're going and getting something from. So yeah, it'd be a really interesting matchup. But yeah, am I worried? Yeah, I think we're a good team. I think it'll be our toughest test yet.
Yeah. So obviously, Rochdale are top. They've actually got 2 games in hand.
Can you tell me his name?
I'm not going to correct you. However, it is worth pointing out that their games in hand are Southend and York, respectively. So two quite tough fixtures there. 34 points from 14 games, 11 wins, 1 draw, and 2 defeats. One of those 2 defeats was against Brackley on August Bank Holiday Monday when they made 11 changes. And their 0-0 draw was on the 25th of October, so the most recent league game with a 0-0 draw away at Woking. Gareth, I think back to sort of, probably the Irons realistically 2 statement wins and performances this season, which were ironically away to Southend and away to York, when the fact that we came away with 6 points in the space of 4 days. Including a clean sheet away at Southend, was a really, really positive sign. How can we do similar? How can we go to Rochdale and get something out of the game?
I think if we can perform, and it's a big if, like we did against Blackpool, just that sheer desire, commitment. There was players at the end of that game that were just were drained. They'd put everything into it, and if we can play like that, I think then we get something out of the game. It'll be a big ask. They're tight at the back as well. They've only conceded 7 goals in 14 games. So, it's going to take something to get past the defence. If we can create the chances and put them away, that's the thing for us. We've got to put the chances away that we create. If we can do that, then I think we stand a chance. But also, as well, on the other hand, they didn't have a game yesterday, did they? So they've not played in, what is it, 10, it'll be 10 days, I think.
Yeah.
So it's, you can look at it and think, yeah, the rest will have probably done them good, but will they lost a bit of momentum? If you keep playing all the time, you carry that momentum through. But a 10-day break can, maybe just put you on the back foot a little bit. I don't know. It'll be an interesting game. It'll be interesting because, as I say, we played really well yesterday, and can we keep that intensity up? Will it affect our players, tiredness-wise?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I was speaking to a York fan actually earlier on in the week, and he says last year that break that they got for coming second actually hampered them. Whereas obviously Oldham coming into that fixture, having played a lot more games winning and going into that full, obviously on the charge, helped them massively. And they said York never turned up, but Oldham were just on that front foot. So look, it can go either way. Look, you get your players back and you can have that same intensity, or like Gareth said, you do take your foot off the pedal. You sort of get into a system where you're not playing games and you can't replicate that, no matter in a training game or training sessions. And look, let's hope for our sake, it's the latter and we go and smash them.
Yeah, absolutely. So Rochdale managed by Jimmy McNulty. No, not the detective out of the wire. He's the centre half and the left back who played 9 league games on loan to the Iron back in 2010. Had a very, very good EFL career for like Macclesfield, Stockport, Brighton, Us, Barnsley, Tranmere, Bury, and then of course Rochdale. He's managed them since 2023. Gareth, obviously there we've had a few outstanding questions in terms of will the break help or hinder Rochdale? Will we be able to keep the positive performance, if you like, going from Saturday? We'll go for one last question before we go on to the predictions. Would you roll with the same starting lineup from Saturday, injuries, fitness permitting, or would you be looking to make a couple of changes and freshen things up?
I think I'd probably start with the same. As injured permitting, as you say. Yeah, I think I'd start with the same. Though it would be nice to have a centre back and Horton moved to left back. I thought Denton was struggling a bit towards the end. So I don't know whether he'll be fully fit or not. But yeah, I think we keep that shape, keep that system, and just go for it and hope for the best.
Absolutely. Right then, Marco, that brings us to the bit where we have to put our necks on the chopping block, where we have to be willing to look forward when we predict a 0-0 draw when it finishes 4-4. Can you give me a prediction for the first versus second, Scunthorpe versus Rochdale?
I will say not one person got yesterday's result correct. Predictions.
I mean, that is true, although what I would say is both sides missed a lot of chances. That was a game that really shouldn't have finished 1-0.
I don't want to go all max, but I'm going 2-0 defeat.
2-0 defeat. Okay, all right.
That kills me. For anyone who's coming for me on Twitter, that kills me. But yeah, no, I think very, really good outfit. But look, like I said, the lads will surprise me before this season. I hope they do it again.
Gareth, so obviously Marco was started off there unusually negative or realistic, depending on your point of view there, with his prediction of a 2-0 victory for Rochdale, probably a goal or two for the Rochdale target man, whose name he doesn't want to pronounce. Go on, give me your prediction as well, please.
Oh, I think that's the first time I've heard Marco say a loss for us, I think. But I'm going to go for, I want to say 1-0 to us, but I'm going to go 1-1.
Oh, okay. He's going
1-1. We're going to score.
Going for a 1-1.
Yeah, 1-1.
Who do you think the Scunthorpe goal scorer will be?
Easton.
Oh, okay. Again, another player actually I thought did, apart from one moment where he gave the ball away in a really bad area, apart from that, I thought he was actually really good against Blackpool, really industrious, good on the turn, quite, lots of forward driving runs. As Barrett isn't here, I'm going to channel my inner Barrett, and I will go for 0-0. Marco is wincing. Why are you wincing?
No, I'm just saying. But I'd take that. Well, I think we can all agree. Would we all take that?
Oh yeah, I'd take a point. Yeah, absolutely. Probably says a lot that not one of the three of us has predicted a Scunthorpe win.
Yeah.
I just think that, look, obviously it wouldn't surprise me if Marco were right. A, Rochdale look a very strong side so far this season, and B, we've played a lot of Saturday, Tuesday, and there does come a point where in the end, particularly in the last 20 minutes of games, where you might just look a little bit leggy, where that can hurt you in the end, especially away from home. So, look, I hope I'm wrong. I'm slightly encouraged by the point that Woking got against Rochdale last time out. Perhaps showing a way in which that they can defend. The performance I'd be looking to replicate is Southend. I know I said this before the Blackpool game, but it's true. We are going to have to go to Rochdale and defend well for periods of the game. So if Mahoney can have a good game, if Andrew Boyce can have a good game. Another player who I thought was excellent actually against Blackpool. Thought he won so many tackles, so many challenges, so many headers against good quality League One strikers. So yeah, we'll keep our fingers crossed.
I say he even had that shot as well that went over the bar. I don't know what he was doing there to take the shot, but he was there. But yeah, just going back as well to what you were saying about the last 20 minutes of games. Like, a lot of people have been mentioning the weather forecast at Rochdale. Like, a lot of rain.
Oh, that's an excellent point. Are we due for 25 degrees sunshine, Gareth?
No, we are due rain.
Oh, okay.
But it's a heavy pitch, isn't it? A lot of people saying about the drainage not being very good. Games got called off. So if it does rain a lot, that last 20 minutes could be telling if it's a heavy pitch. So we will see.
So your actual prediction is a postponement due to a waterlogged pitch?
No. I'm still going waterlogged. We're getting a point. Minimum.
Oh, minimum. I like it. He's feeling. He's feeling ambitious.
Too much sea air.
Right then, before we go, one last shout out on all things Iron. If the floor is yours, Marco.
Yeah, no, a special mention. Obviously, I couldn't actually attend the game on Saturday. Obviously, keeping up on Twitter and everything. And I just obviously mentioned the shirts earlier. The photographer for Scunthorpe it says has been amazing. Which is Daniel. So you'll all seen his pictures on social media and Twitter this week. He is in the running for the National League or Non-League Bible Photographer of the Year. So if you want to go there, we actually won the award, not the photographer ones. I don't think.
I was going to say you would what?
I don't think we'd be any good at that, but we actually won the award last year, and it's something we're really proud of. So yeah, if you do want to chuck him a vote, look, I know Scunthorpe fans get behind their own. So yeah, he's been on the podcast recently. Yeah, I thought it was fantastic, and like I said, his own pictures persuaded him to buy the third kit. That's how good they were. And yeah, no, it's very talented, and so a big shout out to Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more, Marco. Great shout out to Dan. And for any Iron fans who haven't yet listened or watched the pod that we did with him, do hunt it out. We'll put the link for people to vote for him on our social media channels. So do go and click and vote for him if you can. And if you can't find that link, vote, grab one of us at a game, basically. So big massive shout out to Dan. And I think that's it, fellas. Thank you very much for watching this podcast. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much to Iron Army and to Gareth and to Marco for joining us. Very much looking forward to the trip against Rochdale, first versus second. Marco's excited already. I can smell the Stella from here. Very much looking forward to seeing you in the away end, or perhaps even more likely in the queue for the chippy outside the away end at Spotland. So yeah, looking forward to seeing you all there. Up the Iron.